action of the thumbs up. So the reason I'm going to get right into it, because this is rather important for anybody that has, hey Matt, nice to meet you, not yet meeting. This is awesome. Yeah, wonderful, welcome. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, a question came just before actually I saw Stella. It was your question, wasn't it? Or was it Alison, about the hay fever? So obviously doing the method I teach, hyperpressives, with breathing, it has a lot to do with breathing. So there's a lot going on in the body. People think it's very easy, that it's like, oh, it's nothing. But Stella would actually, she's been practicing with me, and she would tell you, it's hard. There's a lot going on. Trying to actually do, I tell you various things that you have to do while you do the practice. Now, the method I teach mainly is called LPF, low pressure fitness, which means the name comes from the actual action that takes place, which is lowering the pressure inside the body. Because when we actually do conventional abdominal exercises, there's a lot of pressure being created on the body, as well as when you run, all that impact sports. Everyday life, what we're doing is we are applying pressure, and the perineal area just gets weaker and weaker and weaker, and that's why many people suffer from prostate cancer, and many ladies from urinary incontinency, prolapse, etc., etc., etc. Obviously, in the case of women, giving birth is also an additional add-on to that extreme. That's an extreme pressure that's happening, and a lot of our bodies are not recuperating because we just don't know how to activate the correct muscles from the inside. So that's why low pressure fitness was invented. That's why all these, the best methods, these mostly European methods, except the Uddiyana Bandha, which is the yoga, the actual hyperpressive, the suction. I call it vacuums because suction does sound a bit funny. But yeah, so the actual vacuum is the oldest part of what we're incorporating into the LPF method. Now, I don't only teach that. I do teach, and the guys that have Stella and Alison, they have, and Helinda, they have a session with me later on, a live one. And I'm going to start incorporating some other goodies. So you can actually apply this to everyday life. And that is what I try and do. I want people to be able to get up in the morning and have their own routine with their favorite way of doing abdominal vacuums, but do it in the correct way. So I'm very strict in the beginning to teach it correctly, to actually help the body to correct itself, because now that's another add-on. One of the other methods, one of the other key points actually about the LPF method is that they've incorporated, they're using actually a physiotherapist method. She's called Messier, a French physio, and she works mainly with people that has scoliosis, so their bodies are not equal. You know, the whole vertebral column, the spine, it's growing sideways, pulling one way and the other way, and it causes a lot of pain in these people. Also, she worked with a lot of ladies that posture-wise, their posture has become very bad and painful in a way because they gave birth. And in the old days, many more babies were born. It was very common for people to have 10, 12 babies. So this helped a lot, and it worked a lot for other people. Then one of the other ways is the neurodynamic movements. And neurodynamic movements, this is more for the nerves. Now, a lot of people complain, you know, they have this upper back pain or neck pain lower back pain, sciatic nerve being pinched, what happens? They go to hospital, they get an injection for the inflammation, but the problem is not solved. So it keeps happening over and over and over again. Well, I don't see that as a solution. Quite frankly, I did suffer from that. I used to have a problem in my upper back, in my neck, and the sciatic nerve. I had it all. And the only thing that actually works for me and maintains for me is this practice, because what happens is we actually, from practicing and using the potency that our diaphragm has, which is actually more powerful than the abdominal exercises we do, that vacuum, we're using that and applying certain postures to it that creates just a little bit of space in between the vertebrae, bit by bit. So your own body learns to apply and correct itself, and it pulls itself upright. So there's certain postures that would be crossover postures that we will actually make you, well, not make you, you make yourself. You'd have your hands in a certain position and pushing, and all the time I would tell you lower your shoulders, and sit up straight and push up with the crown of your head. What that is creating, it's not only mentally, but what that is creating is your body is starting to correct itself. And the more you actually practice it, and this normally for most of my clients, they start seeing results from 1 month, 1.5 months, or maybe they don't notice it, but I can see it. I can see, wow, okay, their posture, the one shoulder, we tend on having one shoulder higher than the other one, and you can actually see that that shoulder is going down, because what am I saying all the time is push your shoulders down, push your shoulders down. Now there's very specific alignments that we use, and I'm very strict when it comes. The first month I'm extremely strict. I'm like, I work the postures and I integrate that into my clients, because I know afterwards when we start playing around, and that's when it starts getting good. Now from about beginner's level to 1.5 months, hi Misha, welcome dear. Yay, I'm so glad you're here. From 1.5 months, I start incorporating doing normal life stuff. Okay, so I would start teaching, doing specific abdominal exercises that's safe and helpful, and combining them with the LPF method, one of the LPF postures. Why? Because I want to teach the body to get stronger. Yes, the muscles, they do help. Obviously, we need to practice them. Yes, we want to lose a little bit of weight and we're going to get that beautiful form. So I don't believe that only practicing one method is the best way of doing it. We need to start applying it to our everyday life to teach our bodies to do things automatically, that we don't have to think about things, it just boom, happens. So the only way to do that is to, okay, well, let's start doing ab crunches, and let's start doing planks, and let's start doing, but we correct it with doing the LPF posture again, putting the body the way it should be. Now we remembered we've had that 1 month, 1.5 month practice. So now it's a lot easier for our body to go, oh, I know that one, and it goes back, putting it in its place. And that's the correct way and the safest way to actually start incorporating exercise. And I even do it with my pro athletes. Any athlete actually that I have, I would, if they have a big problem, I would say, whoa, slow down a little bit on the actual training that you're doing. Let's have a look at what you're doing. I would change their program just very slightly so they don't actually lose out on the actual training that they're doing. Incorporate and have 1 solid month of just doing hyperpressive, doing the LPF method, correcting the problem that's been caused. Once that problem has been caused, then I can say, okay, let's take that program that works for you. You need that strength because you're an athlete, you want to perform, but I want you to perform even better. So let's take your program, and now I'm going to add on just a little bit the postures. After this exercise, you will be doing this posture. After that exercise, you will be doing that posture. So it's very practical as well. You're not going to do hyperpressives forever. First we correct the body, then we maintain. Like any sports, any activity in life, if you really want to get better, first you need to correct the problem, and then you maintain. Then you just do very simple exercises that's very easy to maintain your body in the shape it is. Like when you hurt your body, obviously you can't keep training. You have to go to the physio, right? Well, that's the correcting, and then you start training, and then you maintain that body part that got hurt. Another example that I can give you of where you can actually incorporate things into everyday life. Now, a lot of how do we wash dishes? Especially in a country like Spain, where a lot of us live, most of my clients live here in Spain. I find, I'm pretty tall, I'm not amazingly tall, but I'm pretty tall. So I find benches very low. So what happens? We lean over, our hair, everything is curling down, and I've actually noticed that it causes back pain. It causes the vertebrae to pinch in the wrong way, so that creates problems. So I start incorporating and teaching people sitting in the car. How can you do a hyperpressive? Oh, well, so let's have a look at that. Let's practice it. Next time you sit in a car, I can guarantee you 1.5 months after practicing with me, being solid at it, you're going to look at your rear view mirror and you're going to go, that's not in the right spot, and you're going to adjust it because you're sitting taller. And it's automatic. The LPF method actually automatically adjusts your body. It creates the space it's needed. It takes pain, aches away, because that's what's needed for your body to adjust itself to maintain. Now I see Misha gave me a message here. Glad to be here too. Good to hear your voice, lady. Oh, that's so nice. Yes, I'm so happy. I'm happy you joined in. You guys, anytime that you have a question, just shoot it my way. And I was going to ask you about the car. Yes. Well, we're not driving around too much now, but we are driving around. So yes, actually today one of the things I'm going to teach you in these live sessions is I'm going to actually put live reality stuff out there. So I think next Sunday, yeah, I spend too much time driving. Exactly. Actually, you would start noticing it when you're sitting in the car. And I would do it next time I'm in my car. I would actually do a session and have a short little tutorial to show you what happened in the car. Because when we're driving a lot, we hunch over, we do that. But actually, when you practice, when you start practicing the LPF method at least 2-3 times a week, you will notice that the sitting posture is just so much easier, and doing the hyperpressives in the car. I would do it like when I'm stopping just before I go into a shop, or when I'm driving a long stretch that's very straight, then I also, like a boring stretch, then I would also do it, or when I'm very tired, because it does wake you up. It does. And the other thing is, when you're standing at a bench, when you're standing actually at a tabletop, it's very easy to apply the method at a tabletop. Actually, I'm going to give you a little free tutorial here, because I did make that promise. So I'm going to move this over. Woo! Sorry about that. You guys fell over. Okay, let's see if I can do it this way. No, you can't see the tabletop. Okay, there you go. I think this would work. Okay, so this is the actual countertop. Maybe I should do it that way. Right, so you can see the countertop here. I'm just going to show you a very simple example of how you can actually do it standing at a counter. Maybe you're cooking food, maybe you've cut vegetables and you notice, wow, I'm feeling a little bit like hunched over. Right, so the only thing you do is you separate your feet a little bit, shoulder width apart. So you look down, make sure your feet are parallel. Now one foot, sometimes it pulls out, so it might go that way a little bit. So make sure they're straight forward, right? And you just stand pretty close to the counter, bend your knees, put your hands, now fingers showing inwards, that way. Why? Because look at what happens to my shoulders when that happens. Again, look at what happens to my shoulders. So the little wings here, the scapulas, what happens when we actually open the shoulder, the actual scapula goes, what happens when that scapula opens is the nerve endings that flows in there goes, I can move. And that creates a lot of space for the nerves. That's one of the reasons, only one of the small reasons why we actually do some of the postures this way. Okay, so you put your hands on the countertop. They're not touching the fingertips, they're just separated. Knees bent that way, and you put your shoulders down, your chest goes up. Now immediately creating space down here where the ribcage is. It's why? Because this is a lot better to breathe. You just breathe in through your nose, expanding the ribcage, breathe out. Nice and easy and slow, so you don't faint when you do that. And then do hyperpressive. Okay? And immediately, the more you actually do the hyperpressives, obviously the more experience you have, the more your body knows what it needs to do, and the more immediately it's going to happen. But immediately, the body adjusts itself. So that posture of being hunched over and everything, I can't breathe very well this way. Immediately it's corrected, boom, and I'm standing up straight. So that lower back pressure is being taken off. The other reason, actually, another free tip that I'm going to give you is, the ladies are going to learn it today as well, is tapping. Now, tapping, what am I talking about? What are you talking tapping? Right, so one of the things that we actually do is flex our feet the whole time. All the postures except the standing postures, we actually flex our feet. By flexing your feet, it means you're pulling your toes up towards your shins, right? So I'm going to show you from the top what you can do if you like to run, if you like to cycle, to walk. Well, many times, a lot of people, I'm one of them, I tend to get the sciatic nerve that starts, the muscles goes tight in my hips and my sides, and it pinches the sciatic nerve, and that is extremely painful. So there's this very simple way that you can start incorporating simple things into your daily life, into the training that you're actually doing to make things better. Okay, so what we need to do is prepare the sciatic nerve. How many runners actually you twist and turn your ankles? So I'm going to show you. When you twist and turn your ankles, you're actually turning your foot, right? Okay, so the tapping, what it does, so you separate your feet a little bit, okay? And the only thing we do, well, not the tapping yet, but the only thing we do now is just pull up with a straight leg, straight knee, pull up one toe, pull up the other one. You can see the shins are working quite hard, but that's not the objective. Okay, so the actual objective of pulling your toes up is that sciatic nerve we're creating space that it starts moving, and we're waking it up saying, hey, wake up, like your neurons going zzz, zzz, you know, they start functioning. We're just creating space for that nerve to slide, and the better it can slide, just like your joints, well, the easier it is. So you're preparing your muscles, you're preparing everything to go for that run. You do that 1 minute. You stand there and you just pull up your toe, the other one, at the same rhythm that I do it, and then the other one, and then you pull the one, and then you pull the other one, and off you go. Now, if you get a bit bored and you want something else, you can do the tapping. Okay, so the tapping is basically just tapping your foot 100 times and then tapping the other foot 100 times. Why the tapping? Same thing. What you're doing is you're creating space and you're activating the sciatic nerve so that it can run better, so it can function better, okay? And these are very small things, but they're essential things. We need to help our body to work in a better way. And that is what I teach. That is what I do. I work on the small little details so that you can have a better training session, so that you can have a better life, so that you can have just enjoy life so much more. Because how painful is it when your sciatic nerve pinches? You cannot move. Your whole life is basically stopped. It's like toothache. It's the same thing. It's the smallest little thing, but it stops your life. So another thing that happens is the nerves in the back of our neck. The nerves actually cannot stretch, but they have their canals. I call it canals that they move. They have a specific space that's designed specifically for them, where they can move and slide. Now, if they cannot move, if we are restricting that canal and the muscles pinches, then they hurt because they are nerves, okay? The other thing that you can do is actually just flex your hand. So you would flex your hand, okay? So there's a lot of movement that goes into that one. This is a little bit more complicated because we actually have 3 nerves going in the back of our neck. So this one is a little bit more complicated. This one I actually prefer to do in a live session where I teach the LPF method to get everybody prepared for that one. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? Is there anything that you'd like to know? Anything? Just switching my computer on so I can see a couple of other things. I'll give you guys some time to see if there's any questions that come my way. I'm actually very happy when people ask me questions, because then that, states the need that people have for what they need in their daily life. I know a lot of most personal trainers. I'm a personal trainer. I prefer to I tend to not train too much athletes, because I try and help people that has actual problems that needs to be solved. Athletes has a lot of problems, they just don't want to admit it. I don't know why, we're so proud, but if somebody states a problem, it many times it helps another person, because we're shy, we're proud, that ego gets into the way of helping ourselves. No, we're human, that's the way we work, but it's fine. So I can't see any questions going. I'm just running through everything. Hey Natasha, I didn't see you here. Hi, welcome. Wow, I'm so happy a couple of people showed up. And I hope the tip actually helps of doing the counter hyperpressives. So the actual hyperpressives that I teach quite a couple. Personally, I started with the yoga one. I started with the Uddiyana Bandha. That's how I came across it. I was like, look, I need to do something. There's just no connection down there. My whole lower body was just one block of pain. Literally, I had about half a year where I could barely walk. I would shuffle. Yeah, that's what I was doing. I was walking, I was shuffling. It was extremely painful. And the doctors wanted to inject more venom into my body, and I was already full of venom, and I was like, look, no, stop. This is not working. So for me personally, I'm not one of those personal trainers that says, I've never had experience. And you see so many personal trainers on the internet these days, and they're young guys, young girls, they have absolutely no problem whatsoever in their body. It's so easy, and then they want to go and give advice, and I'm like, honey, what have you gone through in your life to be able to give advice? So for me, a personal trainer is somebody that has actually had personal experience. They know the pain that you've gone through, they've been there, and they're the ones that can say, yes, this works, or yes, okay, maybe I'm just raising an opinion, or maybe I'm just stating what I studied. Okay, that's a big difference. That's a big difference from putting in that personal touch because you've actually gone through something. I've had arthritis, and it's completely gone away. I mean, that everything, when you've had arthritis or gout, it's extremely painful, and your joints goes rigid. They don't move, and it's obstructive, it's painful, it restricts. Again, it's like that toothache, it restricts your life. And the only thing that actually gave me mobility was this method. The LPF method was actually the thing that actually, in the beginning, was painful, but once the joints got their mobility back, it got easier and easier and less painful. Obviously, like anything, the more you practice it, the easier it gets, the better it gets. The other thing that happened to me was, well, I had sciatic nerve and inflammation in my lower back and my hips, everything just locked up. And the only thing that would help me, well, that's one of the reasons why I went and I searched for something else, because I knew getting injections is not going to solve my problem. And a doctor is saying to me, oh, that's normal, you're just going to have to learn to live with it. That for me was just not being an athlete. That wasn't the solution. You know, that causes other problems like depression, etc., etc., etc. So that's why I dug in there, and I wouldn't stop searching for a solution. Being a personal trainer, I started stretching, which helped hip openers and all that kind of stuff. And that's another thing that I started teaching as well. Once we have the method dominated, and we have the actual abdominal vacuum, the actual vacuum for me, that's the power, that's the essence of everything. I use that. So many times I stretch and I would vacuum, because it actually pulls the body that little bit more that you can't, or you're afraid to push your body a little bit further. You don't have to. Just rely on your own abdominal vacuum to do it for you. Now I know the ladies, they don't even know it, but many times I incorporate little stretch with the vacuum into the routine that we're doing, so that your body gets a little bit of a stretch out of it, and that lower back gets that alleviation. It feels pretty good, it does. Another thing that I incorporate is I have an athlete I'm training at the moment, one-on-one, and I told her to, when she's playing with her kid or when she's on the bike, how can she use vacuums as part of a warm-up, as a preparation? Now think about it. If you have the correct posture, if you actually breathe better, and you can open your chest so much more, there's a percentage of your training that just jumps up. It's happened to me. Last year it was midsummer. Now midsummer training, running. I was running and I was training and I was pretty fit. And it's hard. It's hard when it's like 36 degrees and you go for a run, your body's more tired, there's a lot more inflammation coming, so you have to be very aware of injuries and stuff like that. And I remember I was running a hill, and it was early in the morning, but the sun started coming up, and it was hot. And I was sweating quite a lot, and I was tired. I could feel, like, wow. But the breathing, the essence for me was that the way that I breathed, it was like very controlled and slow. I was like, wow, okay, if I can maintain the breathing, you know, I get home. I needed to get home at a certain time because I had to be online for a session. So I was a little bit pressed for time. I was like, look, you're not going to make it if you run full speed now. So just steady, you know, just keep going. I got into that hill. It was a long one. It was a 15-minute climb of non-stop, just getting steeper and steeper, because the house was at the top of the hill, right? And the last bit was the worst. But I remember running and I thought, I'm never going to make it. I'm going to have to walk. I'm just going to have to apologize and arrive late. Didn't happen. somehow my rib cage released more. Somehow my breathing was more controlled. And I actually, one of the guys, Gracie, he's a UFC fighter, and he uses back, or he used to, in his competitions when he used to go and fight. Vacuums was part of his training, was part of his warm-up. Why? Because I realized only not long ago, I realized he used to do it because the dosage, the way he was using the breathing and the oxygen, automatically his body was able to control that dosage, and he was able to just automatically gain more oxygen and not get tired. Basically, in a very simple way of explaining, that's what happened, and everything just went, la, you know, that light bulb that goes up. Well, everything was like that for me. It was like, that's what happened. That's what happened. I mean, it felt like my rib cage was opening more, where before I would be like, you know, it starts hurting when you can't breathe, you know. But it didn't happen. I didn't get to that point because my body automatically knew how to open just a little bit more the rib cage and dosage the oxygen use I was taking in, and breathe out slower so that I wouldn't get that contraction and everything goes rigid and I just can't breathe anymore. And then you just have to stop running, obviously. Then you've basically lost that competition or that running training. For me, that was a huge thing. I remember I actually I went live just afterwards and I freaked out online. I was like, this is amazing. It's somewhere it's an old video that's actually in this page, on my business page, in the Triple E page. If you guys want to watch it, I can repost it if you want to see it, because it was just amazing. So a lot of pro athletes, a lot of triathletes actually uses vacuums, and that's why I don't only teach the LPF. I like teaching LPF because that for me is like, it's a better preparation for the body. But eventually I do start teaching you how to actually use this in your everyday life, in your everyday training, to make your training better. And I would teach a couple of things that you can use to warm up. When I go for a run, sometimes I'm like, I'll just do a couple, you know, while I'm walking and warming up. It's harder, but you can try it. Give it a try. Before you go cycling, or before you go walking, or before you go running, during your warm-up. So I really hope you guys have a warm-up before you go exercising. If you don't, hit me up, because it's highly important. Even if you just go walking, you need to have good posture. Otherwise, that walk is just not going to do what it should, actually. So do it as part of, do a couple of vacuums. Not a lot, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Make that as part of your warm-up program, and do that a couple of times. And I can guarantee you, 100%, you will notice it. You will eventually, after doing that for about 2 months, you're going to start seeing a difference in the way that you're walking, in the way that you're training. And also, the other thing that I do is, if I didn't do a couple of vacuums in the warm-up, I would do it afterwards. Because again, I need to correct that bad posture. What happens when we're walking a lot? We hunch over. We have bad posture. We go like this. Because it's just natural. The body starts weighing down. Now, if we don't have good posture, again, the training might have been good, but afterwards it can cause an injury. It can cause pain. Also, because one side of our body, normally most people are right-handed, so the right side of your body works a lot harder and is the dominant one. So that one would normally go a lot more forward, and that one would go up as well. And that bad posture eventually creates pain, or in extreme cases like running. I've seen so many people running, it's happening to me as well. If I don't correct my posture and I don't concentrate on my posture, I mean, I can say goodbye to running, because I would get injured after day 3. And I can see it. So many people go, oh no, I started running and then, oh, my calf pinched. What does your calf have to do with your diaphragm? Oh, it's got everything to do with your diaphragm. It's all connected. The fascia in your body is working isometrically to help your body. So if you don't look after that fascia, if we don't look after our posture and try and correct it, eventually we will get an injury, and eventually training is just not going to be fun anymore, and it's just not going to feel good. And we want to make training good. That's why we do training, because we look good and we feel good. So the whole point of introducing vacuums and hyperpressors into your training program is so that we can enjoy it so much more, and that it's easier, because it is easier. Training just is so super easy. I mean, now in Spain we can actually go out and run, right? So yesterday, obviously, I was like a little kid. I couldn't sleep the night before, and I went out for a run in the morning, and obviously first thing in your mind is, it's the first time in a long time I'm starting over. And immediately when I got that thought, I was like, hang on, but I do hyperpressors, I'm not going to have a problem. I went for a run, I didn't have a problem at all whatsoever. Like, there was none of that getting tired, getting low. It was hot, I noticed that, but there wasn't any problem whatsoever. And I actually felt, I was like, oh, I can carry on. And that's what you want. Anybody that actually does any kind of athletic training would say that's the most amazing feeling, is when you trained and you felt that, yeah, I pushed myself a little bit, but you feel you can keep going. And that is actually the best way to actually perform and